Bartless is the 15th episode of the 34th season of The Simpsons. This is directed by Rob Oliver, and I really enjoyed this. It starts off with Bart doing, well, a bit of bad behaviour, but actually I really liked the outcome of it. He is reading with some younger children, and to encourage the children to actually take an interest in the books, he decides to draw on them, defacing the books, really. Obviously, the grown-ups see it as defacing, but to Bart and the other young children, it's a method of taking an interest in reading, and I have to say, that's a really great thing for Bart to do. The mention of Matthew Perry's autobiography was a little bit awkward at the moment, but other than that, it was a really strong start. And Marge and Homer realise that while they love Bart, they don't necessarily see the good in him. And they don't know if they like him, because the young children's teacher is able to see that Bart's given them a love of reading, but at the same time, they only see a boy who has defaced some books and done a bad thing, and they start to question, while they love him, do they even like him? And then they go off into this dream world where they see what life would be like without Bart. And I have to say, I found that to be a really fun concept. It was really interesting to see the kind of, the lives that they gave the Simpsons family and what their home would be like. I think they had some fun creating that. That definitely came across. But the chances to see, of course, what it would be like without Bart in their life. And I think the message is pretty clear. I'll discuss with a spoiler warning in a moment, ultimately, what we learned through this episode. But I think it was a really lovely story with some really lovely messages. Very fun, very creatively animated. And as I said, I just love the fact that Bart was encouraging children to read, or at least listen to stories, in any way that he knew how. And I thought that was a lovely thing. But I think it's also very realistic. I think if you live with somebody like Bart, who is constantly causing trouble, disobeying, then it might be hard to see the goodness through all of that because you live with it 24/7. And this is exactly what we get with Marge and Homer. So I think it's probably very relatable for some people and quite eye-opening and kind of moving in that regard. And I really enjoyed it. For me, a fun episode with some, I think, really strong messages in there as well. So I'll discuss now with a spoiler warning, not exactly what happens. I won't go into a great deal of information, but there will be spoilers from this point on. And what happens is basically we learn that this boy called Bart is an orphan. Well, we assume he is an orphan, and he gets hit by Marge and Homer's car. He's not injured, but because he doesn't have anywhere to go, he's supposed to be going to the police station, but Marge says, no, we'll take him in. And they don't necessarily love his behaviour. He's very much Bart as we know him. But throughout the course of the episode, we see the value that he brings to each of their lives. And that while on the surface it may not look like Bart is a good person, but actually when you look at it and analyse it, Bart brings so much goodness and so much warmth and happiness to the other characters. And I love that message. The message is basically saying everybody has value. And if you have somebody in your life like Bart, it may not be a good idea to wish they weren't there, because that could be a pretty disastrous thing. And I guess it's the old saying, you don't know what you've got until it's gone. And that's certainly what the episode was trying to show. And I think they did a really good job with it. Definitely very fun, but very sentimental at times. Very well animated. Ultimately, Bartless is a really strong episode.